Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar here today. My name is Lauren. I am the Director of Sales here at Showdigs, and we are so pleased to be bringing you the one, the only Marc Cunningham here. His reputation precedes him.
She can't even say it. She can't even say it. That's how powerful the reputation is.
You are, Marc. For those of you that don't know what Showdigs is, or Showdigs is relatively new to you, we are a property. Good. Let me just go ahead and grab my coffee here.
Yeah, take a drink there, Lauren.
Man, we're based here out of Seattle. We are a software that basically helps make your lives easier. We are obsessed with taking things off of your hands. So essentially our software will automate that tour scheduling process. And then in addition to that, we have a number of markets where we have live agents that can take tasks off your hands, such as conducting tours. We can do condition reports, marketing photos, lockbox placement, you name it, whatever you don't want to get in your car to go do, we can do that for you. So super happy to be here with Marc today. As I said, his reputation precedes himself. But if you guys don't know, Marc is based out of the Denver area. He has, Marc, you have, over 2,000 employees now?
No, 2,000 employees. No.
I'm kidding.
Over 1,000 doors. Okay.
Last time Marc and I did this podcast together, this webinar together, I was mistaken and said that he had over 200 people that he works.
She flip-flopped door count and employees, and that's a pretty critical mistake to make if you have more employees than doors. That would be bad.
You would think that I would have learned my lesson from last time and just really had more of my coffee before the webinar, but no, very excited to have Marc here. I will mute myself because you guys aren't here to hear me talk. So go ahead, Marc, take it away.
All right. Hey, thank you. Thanks, Lauren. And thanks, Gabby, for having me in here. Hi, everybody. If you guys are not using Showdigs, let me give a quick plug. They reached out and asked if we could do this webinar. They're launching in a couple new markets, and I said absolutely happy to do it because I'm a fan. We use Showdigs. I was talking to a property manager the day before yesterday in Atlanta, and he said, "Hey, I saw the webinar thing that you're doing on Showdigs. I signed up for the webinar, but I'm not going to be able to make it live. I can't make it live." I said, "Oh, why not? That's a bummer." And he goes, "Well, I just scheduled a showing. I have to go do a showing on a property, so I can't make the webinar." And I was like, do you see the irony here? Like, that's what Showdigs does for you. So you don't have to go show properties. You can actually come to the webinars. You can go at your kid's baseball game, whatever. They will send out the agent. They do showings on demand. They do inspections on demand. That's why we use them. That's why we love them. So there's my plug. If you guys have not got the demo, I encourage you to do it. Like I say, the biggest recommendation we can give is to use somebody, and we use Showdigs. So we are all on board for that. Okay, something just happened to where I lost control of the slides there. No, I didn't. I got it back. Okay, so we're going to talk for a few minutes here, and I know your time's valuable, everybody. So I'm going to go really, really fast. Share a couple things on what's going on in this crazy market that we're experiencing, why these things are happening. So we're going to kind of take a step backwards and have a little economic lessons in what's going on in our market, where we've come from, where we are now, where it looks like this is really heading, and how do we as property managers really, really capitalize on this. So about 9 months ago, I've got a video coaching group. So they sign up for these video coaching things, and they get these video coaching things. This was the title of my my video coaching series like 9 months ago to our video coaching group. Why I was advising my mother-in-law to sell her rental property. And I said in that video, I said, hey, like, I'm not sending this out to the mass group people that follow me or whatever, because like I would be crucified if I was like, hey, everybody sell your real estate. But I was telling kind of some people that I talk closely to, and I sold some of my real estate at that time as well, because, and I would tell you the reasons that we sold this and the reasons we had some of our investors sell, because the clouds on the horizon were not painting a very good picture of what the real estate sales market was going to be doing, what prices were going to be doing, but how do we flip that around and making sure that we're capitalizing on this. So let me take the first few minutes of our time here today and kind of give you a sneak peek, a preview of what we were seeing 9 months ago, which has really come to fruition. Like now we're seeing this front page all over the place right now, and what we can do with this stuff. So let me walk through, what is it, six, seven different levers different measuring tools, different filters for our real estate economy. And so the idea is, what's going on out there in the real estate economy? How do we capitalize on these things? And are these things good? Are they bad? What do we do with these things? So as we look at, let's see, I want to make sure these things are working properly here. Okay. So if we look at money supply, first of all, right, the very first one there, right, is this the money supply that we have in the US, if we take a couple steps back, all the way to COVID. Remember when COVID hit and the government freaked out and they were like, everybody stay home. And then, but like, if everybody stays home, then nobody's going to spend any money. They're going to go hide it under their mattresses. And then the economy is going to collapse. And what do we do? And so the government made a decision that we're going to interject money into the economy. And you can argue right or wrong, but they did it, right? They did it. Let me show you just a couple little pictures here. See this graph? This is the money supply in the United States of America, going all the way back to, I can't even see the date. It's so small there on the little screen, going back 30 years, whatever. And you see it kind of ticks up. And then you see there towards the very, very end where it just kind of pops straight up. That's when COVID happened. If we zoom in on that, that's what it looked like. So the money supply increased so dramatically. You can think about it this way. At the end of the stimulus package, and the government literally was sending out stimulus money. Remember that? We got mailbox money. They sent out checks to businesses. If we were live, I'd say, raise your hand if you got the PPP loan. We got the PPP loan for our business, and they were sending out the checks, and they were just giving out money supply for this stuff. At the time, you could look at that and say, when they were done with that, if you pulled $3 bills out of your wallet, one out of every three of those dollar bills did not exist before COVID. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy when you think about that. Now, are there ramifications of that? Like, what happened there? What happened? Well, the money supply, what did that do for the price of housing? They interjected all this money into the economy, and that drove real estate prices up. It made it higher. That's why we see our little green arrow. We're going to kind of rate things green, yellow, or red. So when COVID happened, money supply was high, popped things up. Now, what is the Fed saying? Like, what are they saying every day? Hey, we need to pull money back out. We've had too much inflation. We've had too much of these other things. So that doesn't bode well for real estate prices. That's kind of a negative. Ooh, they might be pulling some stuff out of there. If we look at a couple other factors here, I'm going to see if I can make my screen a little bit larger so I can actually see the slide I'm looking at there. Okay, there we go. What about if we look at item number 2, which is our interest rates? And it looks, on my slide, it looks like these things may not be lining up quite properly, but we're looking at interest rates right here. So this is a graph. If you go way back to 1975, I believe that says, interest rates as compared to housing prices. The red line is housing prices. As housing prices have skewed up for 40 years, interest rates have skewed down. So the idea is there a correlation with, as interest rates drop, housing prices go up? And if we had more time, we could talk more in depth on this. But conceptually, economically, every time there's a drop in interest rates, there's a corresponding bump up in housing prices. That's been a good thing for the last 30 years because interest rates since the 80s have gone in one direction. That's down. And at the same time, housing prices over the same period of time, of course, have gone up. So that's been a very positive. But now what do we see today? Well, today that's gone red as it relates to housing prices. The interest rates are not going to be helping housing prices right now. They're going to be hurting housing prices. Interest rates in the last 12 months have literally doubled. I mean, I saw this morning, 6.5. I think it was 6.5 on the average 30-year fixed rate. A year ago, it was less than 3. So that's a negative as it relates to housing prices. What about inflation? So if we define inflation this way, and so many people talk about inflation, what is it? What is it not? How do you measure it? It's such a sticky topic. Very, very simply, inflation is a whole lot of money going after too few goods or too few services. If a whole bunch of us had $1 million and there's only one candy bar left in the world and we're all trying to buy it, we're probably going to offer a lot of money for that candy bar because it's the last thing, and we don't care about spending $1 or $10 or $50 for a candy bar because it's the last one. So my son, I got 2 boys, and they mow lawns in the summertime. And my son says to me the other day, he's like, "Dad, I don't get inflation. Like, why do when I go to the store, things cost more? I don't get it." He's 16, right? He's 16. So I said, "Okay, Gabe, let me explain. He's 16, or no, he's 17 now. He almost got the mailbox money that the government was sending out when they did the COVID stimulus checks. He wasn't quite old enough. If he would have been a couple months older, he could have got $1,000 stimulus check from the government because he filed taxes. He just missed it, and he was so disappointed. So I said, Gabriel, let's pretend you got your money from the government. Okay, pretend they sent you that $1,000 like you were so hoping that they would send to you. Now remember, he mows lawns all summer. So every day he gets up in the summertime, he puts the mower in the back of the truck and he drives around town and mows a bunch of lawns. I said, if you would have got that check for your $1,000, what would you have done the next day? Would you have gone and mowed lawns the next day? He said, no way, Dad. I'd take the day off. I said, oh, you would? What would you do? He said, I'd get my buddies and we'd all go to Waterworld down in Denver. You know, Waterworld's our little amusement park. And I said, really, that's what you do? So you wouldn't mow lawns that day? No, I got $1,000, Dad. I'm going to Waterworld. I said, okay. I said, hey, doesn't your one buddy work at Waterworld? Yeah, I got a couple buddies that work at Waterworld. Okay. And they got their stimulus money too, right? They got their $1,000. Do you think they'd go work at Waterworld that day? No, they're not going to work at Waterworld. They're going to come with me to Waterworld. Oh, okay. Well, who's going to be working at Waterworld, Gabriel? Like, who's going to take your ticket? Like, maybe if those people don't show up, he goes, yeah, well, some people would show up. I said, yeah. He goes, Dad, it's not a big deal. Because if we went to Waterworld and nobody was working, we'd just get in the car and we'd go to Chick-fil-A and we'd hang out at Chick-fil-A and buy Chick-fil-A sandwiches all day long. I said, oh, okay. Hey, don't you have another buddy that works at Chick-fil-A? Yeah, I do, Dad. Well, what if they don't go to work? Who's going to make the chicken sandwiches? And slowly you can see his little brain, his little tiny adolescent brain start to click. And I guess so. I said this. I said, Gabriel, what if one of your lawn mowing clients called you and said, Gabriel, I need you to mow today because I've got a big party tomorrow at my house and I need you to come mow my lawn? He'd say, well, Dad, I would tell him I can't do it. I need the day off. Okay. But they need it mowed. Like, they have to have it mowed. So they say, Gabriel, I normally pay you $50 to mow my lawn. Would you come mow it for 60? If I paid you 60 today, would you mow it? Not going to do it, Dad. I'm going to Waterworld. Okay. How about 70? They paid you 70, $75. I don't think so. $80. If they paid you $80, would you mow their lawn? He said, for $80, I'd do it. I'd pause Waterworld and I'd go mow their lawn for $80. Like, that's inflation, guys. That's it, right? We all had all this money. And so in order to do the work that we wanted done, or to pay other people to do the work we wanted done, we have to pay more. I mean, it's not rocket science. That's what we've seen, and we all experienced it. Anywhere you go, I went through Wendy's the other day, and it was like $12 for like a Wendy's hamburger and fries. That's ridiculous. That's inflation. That's inflation. So that's what we're dealing with this stuff. This graph is a couple weeks old now because inflation's even higher. You can see inflation. Look back in 1980. 1980 was like, that was a bad time. If you remember that time, inflation was like over 14%. It was popping up, and now it has peaked. Hopefully, we're like at 8, 9, maybe 10%. But that is high. Like, that is really high. We've had a decade, 2 decades, where it's been about 2%. We've seen it in housing prices, and the Fed is terrified of this. This is why they're saying they're going to be fighting inflation. Now, what does inflation do for housing prices? That actually helps, because it maybe push up the value. So that's a good potential thing as it comes to real estate. If we look at inflation, what if we look at the rates of return on real estate? Okay, because we're looking at all these different filters to decide where has real estate values been and where are they going? So inflation, or a rate of return, has been pretty decent. You could get a pretty good rate of return on your real estate. That has not been the case the last number of years. Here's a quick chart going back to 2015. This shows the average rate of return on investing in real estate, if that makes sense. So back to 2015, the average rate of return, if you invested your money in real estate, average rate of return was over 6%. Not too bad. And you can see it's been going down. Why? Because interest rates have been going down. And so today, quarter 4 of 2021 was about 4%. Historically, that's terrible. That's terrible. If you're a true real estate investor and you're trying to figure out where to put your money, a 4% rate of return in real estate is not an attractive thing. But people have been doing it because there's been nowhere else to put it. There's not a lot of options to put your money. But as interest rates go up, which they are right now, that means the rate of return is going to have to go up on real estate. And the only way a rate of return of real estate can go up is if prices come down. Yes, I know we're going super fast. I'm telling you everything I learned in a 4-year finance degree in like 40 minutes. So just bear with me. So our rate of return is ugly right now. It is ugly. A guy called me the other day. Said, Mark, you should come to Virginia and buy some housing in Virginia. And I said, oh, can I get a good rate of return? He said, Mark, you can get a 3.5% cap rate. Cap rate is a rate of return on your investment in Virginia. And he was bragging about this, 3.5%. Think about that for a minute. In other words, if I give him $100, at the end of that year, I will have hopefully made $3.50 on my real estate. That's just not a good rate of return historically as it relates to investing in real estate. That's a big negative for us. What about the cost to build this stuff? The cost to build has been okay. It costs a fair amount to build, but with inflation and lumber prices and all these things popping, cost to build is now going way up. That's a big negative as it relates to housing values and housing prices for the next coming future years. Cost to own, it's been pretty high. What about the cost to own today? If you buy a house today, is the cost to own more or less than it was 3 years ago? Well, let me show you one quick example here. If you would have bought a house in April of 2021, so just a little year and a half ago, let's pretend you bought the average home in America in April of 2021 cost $330,000. That was the average price in America. So if you put down $30,000, we'll call it roughly 10%. The average interest rate in America at that point in time on that type of a property was 3.3%. So a buyer would pay basically $1,400 on the mortgage. Okay, let's just fast forward a few months. In April of 2022, so 1 year later, the same home, the average home in America was $400,000. So the exact same home had increased in value from $330,000 to $400,000. So now to buy that home, just to keep our numbers the same, if you put down $30,000, you put down the same amount. Your interest rate now in April of 2022 had gone to just over 5%. That means your payment on that same exact property is now $2,006. That's a 44% increase in the payments. That's just your payments. Now, if we fast forward, I just yesterday, I reran this slide and I looked at September 2022. Put down the same home today, the same exact home is worth $400,000. If you put down $30,000 at a 6% interest rate, your monthly payment is now up 58%. Now, as of this morning, in the Wall Street Journal this morning, it said interest rates have just hit 6.7% average, 6.7. So bump that up another 10% as of today, as compared to 2 days ago. Like, that's how fast interest rates are popping. And that is terrifying. That's terrifying for investors and for homeowner buyers. Did you see the stat that came out this week that said year over year mortgage applications? So how many people applied for a mortgage application in August of last year versus how many people applied to take out a mortgage in August of this year? It's down 84%. 84%. That's what you call a crash, my friends. That is nuts. So we have that as a big negative. Cost to own is just going ridiculous. Inventory has been good for housing prices because the inventory has been low. That keeps prices high. That's the one thing I think that's still green. We're still going to see a real strong demand based upon low level of inventory. There's just not a lot of housing inventory out there. If we look at legislation meaning, if you're a landlord, is it easy or hard to worry about the laws that are impacting you? And historically, it's what we'll call that yellow. Not great, not terrible, but it's not a positive. There's a lot of legislation and things that we have to jump through. That, in my opinion, that is definitely red at this point in time. That is awful. We've been in business since 1978. I don't ever remember seeing more difficult legislation that we have to deal with to get these houses managed and rented. If we'd been doing this webinar like 2.5 years ago, if Lauren had said to me, hey, Mark, I'm just curious, what are the odds of the federal government passing a national federal law that says tenants don't have to pay rent, and if they don't, you can't evict them? I would have said, oh, Lauren, and I would have patted her on the head. Oh, you're so cute and sweet, Lauren. Just go do your Showdigs business. But that's what happened. I mean, can you imagine that? Our federal government has said, you know what, you guys can't evict people. And we're still seeing that play out in different parts of the country. Not just that, but with housing, rent cap rates. I mean, it is tough. It is tough to manage homes. So legislation, that's not a positive at all. We're almost through these, and then we'll kind of pivot to what we do with these things here. So buyer enthusiasm, that's been pretty good. Like, people have been hot. They want to buy properties. That's kept prices up to some level. And what do we see with that now? Well, let me show you a quick graph that talks about buyer enthusiasm. So this is an interesting one. This is the average price of a home as it relates to the median income in America. So how many times the average income does a person have to pay to buy a home? So look there back in the far left. Back in 1955, way back in 1955. See, and then you look at the number on the right-hand side there, and I blanked out the middle. We'll see what the middle says. So in 1955, the average home, if you take your finger and go over, cost 6 times the average person what they're making. The average home cost you 6 times the amount. So in other words, in 1955, if the average person is making $20,000 a year, you'd say 20, 40, 60, 81. The average home would have been 100,000. Now in 55, the average person probably made, I don't know, $5,000. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And then we fast forward a little bit to the next segment of the market. So from 1970 all the way to 2000, that number dropped down to between 4 and 5. So it cost the average American between 4 and 5 times their annual income to buy a house. And that's how it was from 1970 to 2000. Well, you remember what happened in 2000? In 2000, things went a little bit crazy, didn't they? And suddenly housing prices started going up, 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 up. And we hit 7. Remember the housing bubble? You guys remember that in 2009, right around there? In 2009, it cost the average American 7 times their annual income to buy a house. That's where housing values were at. Look at the next segment. We had the crash. Oh, we crashed all the way back down to the average. We were back to the average of 5, and that was the crash that we talked about. Well, next little segment there, we slowly started ticking back up, 2010 to right before COVID. So this graph ends there right before COVID. And right before COVID, you see we had tipped back up. We were almost to 6 times the average amount that a home costs. In other words, if you made 100 grand, the average home in America costs 600 grand. That's the math there. And then look what happened when COVID hit. Look at that, over 7.5 times. So here's what I would ask you. If we're looking at this, and this is where we are right now, what is more likely in your rational opinion? Is it more likely that home prices are going to continue to go up as a percentage of the annual income average Americans make? Or is it more likely that it would go down? I mean, it's just, you can just guesstimate. You can just guesstimate. Now, it could go up. Certainly, it could go up. We know incomes are not going up a whole lot. So it's possible, but we are at an all-time, we're well above any all-time high. We're well above the housing bubble pricing for housing. And remember, when the housing bubble that we look at on the little graph there, when that housing bubble hit, interest rates were very, very low. We're very, very low. Now they're very, I don't want to say very high, but they're very high comparatively. So that doesn't bode well for buyer enthusiasm. We're seeing buyers run away from this stuff. So if we put all these things together, and if you look at the column on the left, and you're kind of gauging, gosh, has it been a good time to buy a house? Just if we look at the kind of greens and yellows, I'd say, yeah, it's been a good decade to buy a house. But what about now? Would you go buy a house right now? If you had $100,000 burning a hole in your pocket, how do you want to invest that? Maybe you could, but the risk level is higher. The risk level is higher. That's why we sat down with a lot of our investors and said, hey, now's a good time to sell or flip into something better. Sell the junk, buy a better property. Now's the time maybe to take a little bit of money off the table as it relates to some of this real estate investing thing. So if we look at all that together, how does that impact us as property managers? This is this is a video we did, I don't know, a couple months ago, and what we called the return of the accidental landlord. So I bet it was 4 months ago. 4 months ago, we got a call from a prospective owner who may want to hire us. And he said something we hadn't heard in literally a decade. He said, hey, Mark, my name is Bill. I have a home here in the Denver market. I bought it like 6 months ago, and I have to move. I got a job transfer. I would prefer to sell it, but I just bought it 6 months ago. And if I sell it, when I factor in closing costs and commissions, I'm going to lose money on this thing. And I've been trying to sell it, but I'm not getting a lot of activity, so I think I may want to rent it out. Now, we thought, well, I haven't talked to this guy in a decade. If we got in a time machine and we went back in time, call it a decade, maybe 15 years, from our industry standpoint, about one half of all leads that came into our industry were those types of people. They were people that said, I bought this house with every intention of living in it. Something has changed in my life situation. I got a job transfer, divorce, somebody passed away. So now I have to move. I would prefer to sell it, but I can't, so I want to rent it out. That was where half of our business came from as an industry. Well, when the housing market got hot a decade ago, suddenly those people didn't call anymore because they didn't need to rent out their house. Anybody could sell any house for just about any price. Doesn't matter if you bought it 3 days ago, you could sell it today for more than you bought it 3 days ago. That's how the last decade has been. So it's been like a double whammy for us as property managers. It has been a hard decade because we've had two big things working against us. Number one, there's been no supply of new owner clients coming on board who are accidental landlords because they don't need us. They would sell. So nobody ever called us and said, I can't sell it. I want you guys to manage it. So that was one whammy. The second part of the double whammy was because the real estate market was so hot and strong, you had a lot of current clients saying, I think I may sell. I wasn't even planning on selling, but my gosh, the prices are so high. I think I'm getting out. I'm taking my money and I'm going home. So there was a real small front door for new clients coming on board. And there was a huge back door for clients selling. And I've talked to a lot of property managers. I know a lot of PMs experience that. A lot of clients in the last number of years have been deciding to sell their rental properties and they just want to get out. And so it's been really, really hard. If you grew your business in the last 2 years, I think you're rare. Most of the companies I know went backwards in door count over the last 2-year period. So if that's you, number one, don't feel terrible because that's kind of been the average for our industry. Why? Well, because of what I just said. There's been not a whole lot of people coming on board and a whole lot of people selling out the back. Now, the people that have been coming on board in the front door, they have been true investors. That has been the one positive over the last decade. Is with housing prices kind of dropping a little bit and with interest in renting out their homes, there have been true quote unquote investors. That's who we've been working with, right? All of us. When you get a call, it's an investor and they want to talk numbers. That's shifting dramatically because now we're having individuals who used to live in the home want to come to us and rent out their house. So how do we change what we're doing? How do we change our presentation to talk to those folks? So 4 things that I think you need to be, and then we'll get out of here. I'll let you get back to your early weekend that you all want to start. Number 1, we have to be findable. Okay. So when someone's selling their house, they've been trying to sell their house and they can't sell. And they've been probably working with an agent and it's been listed for rent for a while. They can't get the price they want. They get frustrated and they say, you know what, forget it. Pull it off the market. I'm just going to rent this thing out. Okay. You have to be findable. They have to know where you are. Now, a couple things that you want to make sure you are doing to be findable. This is more important than I think it has been in the last decade. Three things I would recommend you do if you haven't done recently. Number 1, update your Google My Business profile. Google My Business is free. We all have our profiles on there. When's the last time you logged in and updated your information? If it's been more than about 2 months, I guarantee you it's a little bit out of date because Google My Business is constantly adding new categories, new selection options you have on that page. So you've got to go in there and update that. So go and update that and pay attention to this. As you're changing things, as you're saying things about your business, make sure that you don't just say, we work with real estate investors. Because all of these people, accidental landlords, they don't think of themselves as real estate investors. You need to suddenly tweak your marketing just a little bit so that people who are coming to you understand that, hey, we work with homeowners who can't sell their house. We can be a landlord, a short-term landlord. I mean, short-term is whatever you want it to mean, right? But we can help you. I know you want to sell your house eventually. We can help you until the market turns around and the market improves and you can sell it. We can help you rent this thing out in the meantime. So when inquiries come into you, you need to find out, is this a true investor? And if so, I'm going to have a very different conversation versus if this is somebody that says, gosh, I've been living in this house and we raised Junior here and we would love to sell it, but we just can't. So now we want to rent it out. You want to have 2 different conversations, but you need to be findable by both groups. So number 1 is Google My Business. Number 2, as I mentioned a moment ago, when that individual says, I'm not going to sell, who are they saying I'm not going to sell to first? The first person they're saying it to is their real estate agent. Ideally, you want that real estate agent to be able to say, oh, well, you know what? If you're going to rent it out, you should call Mark at Grace Management because they do a great job. What is the relationship you have with the real estate sales agents in your market? Now, if you do sales like we do, that's okay. Because a lot of you I know will say, well, Mark, I do sales. So the real estate agents in my area, they won't talk to me because they see me as competition. Well, then you're not presenting it properly. We do sales as well, but yet we have a very strong relationship with real estate sales agents in our area because we want them to refer us property management accounts. So we've got a referral page on our website, and we promise not to sell it. We promise to return the lead to them so that when that client wants to sell, we're not going to steal their client. We're going to give it back to them. You can put some things in place. We pay them a referral fee. We make it real nice. But are you getting in front of the real estate agent community? Another way to do that, and I think now is prime time for this, is to offer some free classes to real estate agents. What if you put together a little 60 minutes presentation on things to know about managing rental properties, or things to how to work with real estate investors? And then you go into these real estate sales companies and you do a 1-hour class for them. So we did that. We put some stuff together, and we even got it approved like for CE credit in our state. So now what we can do is we can go to real estate companies and say, hey, do you want us to come into your Keller Williams office, and we'll give you a free 1-hour CE class to all your agents on how to work with real estate investors? And they say, yeah, absolutely, please do that. So it's a beautiful thing. They pay us money to come in and do a CE class for their agents, and then we're kind of promoting ourselves in that CE class. Now, it's not just a 1-hour promotion of us, like we're teaching them how to work with real estate investors, but then we throw in so by the way, when you're working with that real estate investor who wants to sell and they can't, please consider us a resource. And so they do. And so we'll do that. We teach classes to these folks. It's just like balloons and how it goes in such a good direction. So we were doing this for a while. Last year, our state national realtor association, so CAR, the Colorado Association of Realtors, they reached out to us. They're like, hey, will you come up to our statewide event and do a session on real estate investing? Because I know you've talked to all these different little groups, and would you please, can we pay you money to come talk to our real estate agents? I was like, well, let me think about that for a minute. Yeah, I guess I could carve out the time for that. I mean, how cool is that? To be able to stand up in front of a bunch of real estate agents, educate them on real estate investing, and then the leads that flow to you for that. So that's something that you want to think about doing. Be findable by them. And then the third thing you need to make sure you're doing to be findable is your website. If you are not on the top 3, 4, 5 spots of Google when it comes to property management in your area, or rental real estate, or rent out my home, you got to work on it. You got to get your website up, because if they can't find you, then all this flood of new business is going to pass you, and they're going to go right to your competition. All right. Number 2, second thing you need to do is be the expert. These people that are coming to you are not investors. They don't see themselves as investors. They see themselves as homeowners who need someone to help them. So you're going to have to hold their hand in a much different way than you would hold the hand of a real estate investor. When a real estate investor contacts you about managing their house, typically they want to talk numbers. Right? What's the cap rates? What's the average days on market? What price point can I get here to reach? Like numbers. They're typically unemotional. They just want to be numbers people. That is the opposite of the person who is living in their home. Because the person who is living in their home is going to say, well, now this was baby's room. This is where I raised my baby, right over there. And so I want to be really, really cautious to make sure we get somebody in here who's going to take care of this house, because they have an emotional attachment. We have a conversation that we have with those folks in our office. We call it our emotional detachment conversation. You need to have a conversation to say, Gabby, I know you grew up in this house, and I know this was your room as a baby, and you loved it. Oh, and that was the corner where you used to draw on the wall. Oh, such great memories. But Gabby, you know what? Someone else is going to be moving in here, and they may move their teenager into this room, and their teenager is going to put up naughty posters all over the room. I mean, are you going to be okay with that? Like, and if they freak out about that, then they shouldn't be renting out their house. They just should not be renting out their house, because they're not going to be emotionally able to detach. So make sure you're having those conversations with that. Let me just pause real quick. I see. I also make sure I'm paying attention to the comments. Cameron, is this being recorded? Yes, Cameron, this is being recorded, right? Lauren, Gabby, and you guys said that awesome. Nick said that's such a smart idea. Yes, Nick, that's a brilliant idea, Nick. I came up with it all by myself. I am brilliant. Nick's the only one that said that's a great idea. Nick, if this were a CE class, I would give you an extra bonus hour of CE for complimenting my great idea. Okay, sorry, I digress. Where was I? I got confused talking about how great I am. Oh yeah, be the expert. Be the expert. So you need to make sure you're educating these people, right? Not in a condescending way, but you're gonna have to hold their hand. You have to be gentle with them, but make sure that they're able to emotionally detach from the property. And if they're not able to emotionally detach, then you probably shouldn't manage a property. They're really not. We we walked a property a few weeks ago with this woman. She wanted us to manage it, and my property manager came back and said, "Yeah, I don't think she's a good fit for us." I said, "Oh, why not?" Well, she's walking through the front and she's telling me about her rose bushes. These are my rose bushes. My granddaughter helped me plant these rose bushes in here. And like, I want to write it in the lease that the rose bushes need to be kept at a 3 feet length because like, these are my rose bushes. You know how, you know, if we rented that house, what the tenant would do to those rose bushes. You just know, right? Just by knowing how important they are to her, you know, they're going to get destroyed. So we said, you know what? We can't guarantee the safety of your rose bushes, ma'am. It's probably best if we don't manage your house, but you've got to set yourself up with that. Now, a couple ways to do that. And if you've been watching any of my stuff, you know, I talk about this all the time, putting out like video stuff or even like blog type things on education. Don't tell them how great you are. Don't tell them you are the expert. Educate, 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 educate. You've got to educate them. That's how they're going to see you as the expert. If you come in and say, "Hey, I'm the expert. I know what I'm doing," they're going to think you're an idiot. But if you come in and say, "Hey, here's stats. Here's what you need to be aware of. Here's a lease agreement. Here's how we're going to do the best job we can do to minimize the risk of putting a rough, bad tenant into your property." Now, it could happen. It's possible. But here's the 7 steps we go through to qualify applicants to minimize that risk for you. So spend time educating, spend time being the expert on that stuff. Okay, number 3, make sure you are screening your owners. This kind of plays into that a little bit. So coming out of the last number of years, most property management companies have been desperate for owner clients, and we take on anybody. I believe that is a grave mistake for us to make in this industry, because if you've been doing this for a while, you know that not all owner clients are good owner clients. And that's more important now than in the past, because now you have these people who used to live in these houses and they want to give you the keys to their house and they see you as partners. And just like we screen tenants, and just like you know that if you get 5 applications on a rental property, a few of those are not going to be qualified. Like you could just tell me that. You could just tell me that. I would propose to you that roughly the same percentage of owners are probably not good owner clients for you. And if you've ever had to fire an owner client, you know what I'm talking about. You look back and say, how did I bring them on? Why did I see that? What did I not see? So get really, really selective in who you allow to work with you. And so if you're talking to someone and you just get a sense, you're like, this person is difficult, then don't work with them. Then just don't. Say, you know what? I'm sorry. I just don't think we'd be a good fit. I don't think that our level of service would be a good fit for your needs, sir or ma'am. So I'm just going to have to respectfully decline and then give them the phone number of your competitor across town and go have them ruin their business. Because some of the worst mistakes you can make are working with the bad owner clients that are not a good fit. So do not get desperate. When an owner client calls in, be very, very critical, be very, very discriminating on who you want to work with. And we take this to an extreme. Like, we are just so cautious on who we let come in, because the way you have to think about it is this: your business has a limited number of slots, right? You have a limited number of people you can work with. You do. Now you may say, "Well, Mark, that's ridiculous. Like I could take on 100 new. I wish I could get 100 new clients." Okay. Well, if it's 100 new clients, that means you have 100 slots. It means you only have 100 slots. You need to think about the idea of the fact that you're limited in the number of people you can work for. And if you give one of those slots to a bad owner client, that's one less slot you have available for a good owner client. And be very, very selective in who you're willing to give your time, your energy to, because the worst mistake you can make is bringing on a bad fit owner. I really believe that. That's the worst mistake you can make. I said to our team the other day, guys, I think the biggest risk we face for next year is bringing on bad owner clients. That's the biggest risk we face. It's not bringing on clients. Well, I know we'll get clients. That's not going to be a problem. I don't think that's going to be a problem for anybody on this webinar. The biggest risk you face is bringing on bad owner clients, high risk owner clients. So we have a whiteboard in our office, and one of the things we have written on there, that's like one of our rules. The rule is this: no high risk clients allowed. No high risk clients allowed. And like that resonates, I would guess, with most of us, because when you're talking to someone, you can just kind of get a sense that, yeah, this is a pretty grumpy person. This is not a nice person. This is somebody who wants to tear apart my management agreement. This is somebody who wants to tell me what to do. They're high risk. Make the rule that you do not allow high risk clients. No high risk. Make a little sign, put it on your door. No high risk clients allowed. All right, number 4, prepare for new competition. Here's the downside of all these good things we're talking about, is you're going to have new competitors entering the market. So like I said a moment ago, the applications for new mortgages are down 83% year over year. That should blow your mind. Like, that is terrifying. Think if you're a mortgage loan broker and your business just dropped by 83%. Well, that means 83% less people are even interested in buying a house. How does that impact mortgage brokers? In a big way. How does that impact real estate sales agents that only do sales? In a terrible way. You could be the worst real estate salesperson in the United States of America, and you probably did okay the last couple of years because everybody's buying, everybody's selling. It's a crazy hot market. That has shifted in the last couple months. Now you got to be good. You got to be good to sell real estate in this market. So a lot of those real estate agents who find themselves not being able to sell are going to say what? I think I'm going to do property management. How hard can it be? I mean, I'll start a property management company. I'll hire Showdigs. It'll be great. It'll work great for me. And so they're going to start a new company, new property management company, and they're going to be getting their stuff going. And they're going to what's the word I'm looking for? They're going to spy on you. They're going to shop you. They're going to shop you. Right? That's the word I was looking for. A very technical word. That's why it didn't come to my mind. They're going to shop you, and they're going to look at how good you are. They're going to look at how great your website is. They're going to look at how much experience you have, your level of expertise, and they're going to say, I can't match any of that stuff. I mean, wow, that's really good. How can I beat out that really good company who's really smart, they've been around a long time, and they're really knowledgeable? How can I compete against them? And then a little light bulb's going to flicker in their head, and they're going to say, I know, I'll charge less. They're charging 8% management fee. I'll charge 7%. And then someone else sees them and they say, well, I'm going to charge 6%. And then here we go on the slippery slide down to cheap prices, because they can compete against you on cheap prices. They can. And that's something you have to be prepared for. So it's real. It's very, very real, because owners that call them and owners that call you, they don't necessarily know immediately that, oh, well, they're cheap because they're no good, and they're expensive because they are good. They don't know that. You have to educate them on those things. You have to make sure they're aware of the dangers of some of the folks out there. So be prepared for that. We see it every cycle like this. Don't let that scare you, but it is coming. There will be a lot of new competition. Okay, let me just pause and see if we have any comments on this. Susan, we now do so many more on-site consultations so we can meet the owner and see the property. That's a great point, Susan. Yeah, doing on-site consultations, making sure you're getting out there and taking a look at that property. Glenn says, let's not use numbers, but yeah, I know we can't talk numbers, Glenn, but we're national. I'm not too concerned about you copying my, but I will say this, Glenn, all of our fees are on our website. So I'm fine with using numbers because that's what we charge. It's anybody can go on our website. It's public information. I encourage you to put your pricing on your website. Let people see. That's how you educate the public there that way. Steve says, how are you marketing to accidental landlords? Great question, Steve. A big part of it is putting information out there that accidental landlords are searching for. So for example, every month we have we'll do an educational video that we blast out to our mailing list, which includes current owners, prospective owners, real estate agents, title companies, like anybody in the real estate sphere that we put out there. The topic we did last month was should you self-manage your own rental property? Should you self-manage your own rental property? The reason we did that is because we found that was a Google search people were typing into Google because they can't sell, and so they say, should I self-manage my rental property, or how to self-manage my rental property? So that's what they're Googling that. Well, imagine if Mark wrote about that. That's going to pop up in the Google search. Should you self-manage your property? So when they go in and type that, and they're in the Denver markets, ding, Mark's little article on should you self-manage your property, or 5 things to know to manage your own property, that's going to pop to the top. And you may say, well, but I don't want them to self-manage. I want them to hire me. I get that, but we want to educate overall. We want to educate. So if you come at it from an educational mindset, so the topics, Stephen, are very, very important. Educate them. How to evict a bad tenant, how to find a good tenant, how to self-manage your own rental property. Is now a good time to sell your rental property? What should you do if you can't sell your home? Topically, that's what people are going to Google to search for. You want to be the one answering those questions for them. Great question, Stephen. And then the other thing I would do, as I said, Stephen, get out there to the real estate community. Like, get in front of every real estate agent you can, because they're the ones that are going to be losing listings hand over fist. Pay a referral fee. Tell them that you pay them a referral fee, so that way they're happy to give that referral client to you, because they're the ones that are going to know first. They're the ones at the front of the line. They're going to hear from that owner, hey, I can't sell my property. What do I do? Oh, you call whoever. All right, I think we are. Yeah, look at that. Good timing. We're just about done now. We'll pause here for a minute. If you have any questions at all on anything we covered, I know we went fast because I'm trying to get everyone back to their great days they're having. Any questions on anything we hit? Or Gabby, Lauren, do you guys have any thoughts, questions on anything we went over?
No questions from me. Thoughts, though. This is such great information, so many good ideas. I'm seeing all sorts of good things coming through the chat box here, and it looks like Susan actually just posted something as well.
Susan said, we're actually pulling homes 40 days and over that are vacant and asking agents if owners might consider leasing the property and property management, targeting specific single-family homes and specific zip codes, doing a whole lot more outbound now that investor traffic has slowed. We offer referral and guarantee their clients are always their clients. I like how you say that. Yeah. Love your videos. Thanks. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal last week, maybe Monday of this week. If search for this, it was called, the title was stupid. It was something like what people are doing with real estate or buyer. It was a misleading title. What it should have been called is everybody wants to hire property managers. And one of the things it said in this article is they're now tracking statistically, they're tracking the number of people month over month that change the status of their home on the MLS from for sale to for rent. They've never tracked that number before. And it said, it gave California as an example. And I think it was month over month. It said in California, month over month, now listen to this, 10% of all homes listed on the MLS, month over month, changed status from it was for sale and now it's for rent. That means 1 out of every 10 homes in Southern California last month became a rental. 10%? That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. So if you've got 10,000 homes on the for sale market on the MLS, 1,000 of those are now rentals. That's shocking. That's shocking. And it gave different markets. I think that the national average was like 4%, and Texas was 6 or something. But they're tracking that. And this whole article was about that. The whole article is about people that want to sell, but they can't sell, and so now they're deciding to rent out their home. I think that's where a flood of business is going to be coming for us. I think it's going to be amazing. We're going to have more business than we can handle. You always hear people talk about, staff up for future growth. And guys, the last decade has been hard. It has been hard to grow. If you've been growing the last 10 years, good for you. It's about to get real easy. But you got to be findable. You got to be the expert. You got to be careful on who you let come to your business, and you got to keep your prices strong. Let's see here, Hannon. So you said Hannon. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name there. How would you sum up the silver lining? Be prepared for the rental. Yeah, the silver lining is the downside is the sales market is collapsing. For those of us that do sales, and we do sales, and we do sales as well, and we can't sell anything right now. Nobody wants to buy anything. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Interest rates, if I would have told you a year ago, interest rates were going to go from 3 to 7 over a 12-month period, nobody would have probably believed that. But they're there. They'll be at 7 the next week. There's my prediction. We'll see 7% in the next week. And who knows how much higher it's going to go. The Fed has already come out and said we're doing another 75% or 7.75% basis increase next month, and probably more to that. Like, looking ahead, 6, 9, 12, 18 months, it does not look pretty. So that's the downside. The sales market's going to get real ugly. The silver lining is we have a tremendous opportunity to capitalize on these as property management accounts. You're about to be able to grow your business really, really well with these folks. And a lot of them are going to say they're going to leave. They're going to say, well, when the sales market turns hot again, I want to sell. But we've been through these cycles before. And what we found is that isn't always the case. Many of them, let's say 5 years from now, when the sales market gets hotter again, many of them at that point in time, they're going to be like, you know what? This landlording thing is pretty good. I like getting that monthly check for my great property manager. So I'm going to keep it as a rental. So they're not all going to sell when the market gets hot. They just won't historically. Oh, man, did I talk really fast, Gabby? Did I go really fast? I felt like I went really fast.
You did great. I have a question for you, Mark. What are your go-to resources for tracking these trends and checking the data? What are your bookmark tabs that you have?
Oh, that's a good question. There's so much data out there, right? It is so easy to get lost in the data and to just listen to all these people and you don't know what's going on. And 10 people say 10 different things and you listen to sales people. Oh, it's tough. It's really, really tough. I think the first thing that we should all be doing as property managers are listening to our clients, listening to our owner clients, right? So for the last number of years, people have wanted to sell. Like I said, it was, I think 4 months ago when we got that first phone call from that person who was like, hey, I can't sell. And we just were scratching our head. We're like, what do you mean you can't sell? Who can't sell? Anybody can sell. And so we started paying attention to that type of stuff. So listen to your clients that way. Guys, if you're the business owner, like if for the number of people in here or anybody else, if you are the business owner and you are not reading the Wall Street Journal, come on. Like you got to pay attention to these things because this stuff, it's always a little bit behind of what's really going on. But there's no better day-to-day resource that I've found than that to see what's going on with these things and find out before you're being told about it in some conference. If you go to a property management conference and then the speakers and economists and they get up and they're saying things and that's the first you've heard about it, you're way behind the curve. And that's not a good place to be because to capitalize on the things we're talking about, you need to do the things that we just talked about. Like the people that don't do those things, they're not going to be findable. They're not going to be able to take advantage of this group of clients that's coming in there that way. There's so many podcasts out there. I would try to listen to some of the pessimists. I'm a pessimist by nature because when everybody starts saying it's never going to get bad again, it's about to get bad. I was at a property management conference, Lauren, 12 months ago, and they had an economist talking, and some people were saying, hey, is the housing market going to slow down? And the whole presentation was why the housing market's not going to slow down. Inventory is too low. People need housing. It's only going to go better. They actually said this. Guys, I know in the past that the economy ebbs and flows, but this time is different. When you hear someone say this time is different, like go sell your real estate because no time is different. That was like my ding, ding, ding. Okay, everybody here thinks this time is different and the market will never go down again. I was throwing for sale signs of my properties faster than I could move. So listen for what everybody the consensus is saying and kind of be a little bit of a pessimist on that stuff. When everyone's doing something, you want to do the opposite. And when everybody was buying, that scared the heck out of me. Long answer to your short question, Lauren. Any other, let's see here. Susan said, I've been a realtor since 86. Yes, seen a lot of markets. It's all cyclical. Yes, it is, Susan. Silver lining is people are turning to property management. Yes, they are. Lee said, we love picking up properties that were recently for sale. Those homes are generally upgraded and rent ready. As a bonus, we get to use the photos for sale, showing the stage home. Lee, that's a great point, and we've discovered that as well. That's another big benefit here. When an investor comes to you and says, hey, I want to buy some homes. I'm an investor. I want you to manage them. They're all numbers. They're all numbers driven. And they're probably buying class B minus, class C, class D properties because the numbers are real attractive on those types of properties, aren't they? And raise your hand if you get excited about managing class D properties. Yeah, I can't see anybody's faces, but I know nobody's raising their hand. We hate managing class D properties. But as Lee just said there, when someone comes to you with a house that they've been living in, that's typically not a class D. That's a class B, maybe a class A property. So the numbers aren't going to be quite as attractive, but the property is going to be very attractive. It's going to be a better quality property. You're going to get more rent. So I would expect to see your rent roll increase as well. You're going to start managing better properties because these things are owned by individuals who used to live in. Ladies, that's all I got. I will turn it back over to you to close us out. Thank you, everybody that took some of your time this afternoon. I hope this was worth your while. If you, as I said earlier, if you had not checked out Showdigs, you need to check them out, because with all this new inventory, you got a lot of showings and you got a lot of inspections, and Showdigs can do both of those for you. So check with them, see how they can help you out with that. And thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. That was so helpful. A lot of really good nuggets there. And for anybody, I know there are a couple people asking if this was being recorded. It was in fact recorded. So we will have that link out. Gabby, I think we're going to be sending that link to anybody that registered. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you, Mark, for the plug. If anybody does have any questions about Showdigs, happy to answer those for you. You can shoot me an email, lauren@showdigs.com. Nice and easy. Got it right there for you. So thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully slide nicely into the weekend here. Thank you.
Bye.